Hello everyone, welcome to this afternoon session. Just before we get started on this, just to let you know that there are people available on hand to chat to as we go through this. So there's people in the SQ Digital room and people in the ICS accounting room. So for this afternoon session, we're going to be focusing on how user intent drives SEO and content in a digital marketing sense. So who are SQ Digital? For those of you who weren't available for my talk this morning, we're a full service digital agency based in Lancaster. So as of August, we'll have been going for 21 years, which makes us one of the longest running SEO agencies in the UK. And we started out in specialising in search, but we moved, as I mentioned, to a full service agency. So we cover SEO, PPC, content marketing, email marketing, website development. We're also an award-winning agency. So we have RAR awards, which is a recommended agency register. So it's as voted by our customers. So unfortunately, it's not us shouting for ourselves, it's our customers talking about how great a job it is that we do. We're also in Prolific North's top 50 digital agencies. And the one, as I mentioned this morning, I'm most proud of, we're also a Google Premier Partner. So Google don't give a specific number on this, but there are only a handful of Premier Partner agencies in the UK, and there's not many more globally, which means that we're trusted to develop customer campaigns, retain customers, and drive return for them. So myself, I'm Ash Winder. So I'm the lead digital marketing executive at SQ Digital. So I handle the day-to-day run of some of our paid media accounts alongside managing the paid media team and the SEO department.
Hi, I'm Lizzie Goldsborough. I'm a senior SEO executive at SQ Digital. We work with a wide range of clients from a variety of different industries.
Hi, I'm Rami Greenland. I work in the SEO department alongside Lizzie.
And I'll just hand over to Lizzie to take you through today's agenda.
So in this afternoon session, we're going to first touch on what is SEO. Why is SEO important to people who own businesses and want to reach their target audience online? We'll look at the evolution of Google search and why that's crucial to search engine optimization. And then finally, we'll look at effective on-page SEO techniques and what you can do to promote your reach in organic search. So first of all, we're going to start with a brief overview of SEO.
So what is SEO? It stands for search engine optimization, and essentially it is making changes on your site for you to be found in search. Why is it important? What's the first thing that you do when you want to find out an answer to a question or want to find a product or a service? You Google it, you don't Bing it. With search engine optimization, you look for specific terms that you want your customers to find you for. I have an example of a search that I did last week that I want to show you. So I like my dresses. Love them even more if they come with pockets. So a search that I've done is dress with pockets. As you can see, there's a very specific search landscape with this. We've got Google shopping results, Google adverts, and then the organic. With SEO, you're concentrating on the organic results. You optimize your site to be found for dress with pockets by changing little bits of the data on the website. The most important ones you can see here are the ones that you get in the search results. The blue text is the title tag. That is Google's big signifier about the information on the page on your website. The URL also can be optimized. So, for example, the first example on there has a URL of /dresses-with-pockets, because that website knows that they want customers who want this product. Then the meta description tells your searchers more about your website and what they're going to find once they click onto that result.
Thanks, Rami. One thing I'd also like to draw your attention to on this slide is there was 817 million results loaded in 0.8 seconds. So that's a massive achievement, but how does Google actually do that? So this leads us into something called indexing. So as Rami's mentioned, there's specific parts of a website that we can change to help Google recognize that we have keywords on that website, and they're very relevant to a specific search query that someone might do in the search bar. And so as it's looking at that site, it indexes it against the relevant search term. And Google has something called the Google bot or the crawl spider. It's got quite a lot of different names. But essentially this thing is going through all the web pages of every website all the time, and it's constantly looking for updates, new information, new pages, new links. And when it finds them, it works out what they're relevant for, which search term, or we often say keyword and search term as interchangeable entities. But it works out what it's relevant for, and it indexes it in this huge database. In fact, there's multiple databases around the world, so that it can pull up 817 million results in less than a second. And that leads us on to the next slide. So why does Google want to do that? Why does it want to load so many results so quickly? And it's all about the fundamental principle of running a business. It's all about the user. So Google wants to provide the best user experience it can to its users, and those are people that are doing the searches. And we're going to focus on Google today because the bottom line is if you're not on Google, then you're going to suffer in the online world, because Google has a 92% market share as of April this year. So Google is key if you want to be found online. So over the years, so Google was founded in 1997 by Larry Page and Sergey Brin, and since then it's got better and better at matching up the search results to the query that's searched in the search bar. And it does that by what's called algorithm updates. And there's been hundreds of these updates since Google came into being. But on the slide, on the left-hand side, we've got the first update that we show is the Panda update. So we've started in 2011 because the Panda update it was the beginning of the end for what we call black hat SEO.
Yeah, just for people that aren't super technical SEO whizzes like myself, these two are absolute experts in what they do. So black hat SEO is all about dodgy stuff, we'll call it. So everyone's probably heard of someone that bought thousands of links to the website or just stuffed loads of keywords in. So back in the day, it used to be common practice. If you've got a white backgrounded website, people would stuff lots of keywords off to one side, colour them in white so no one could ever see them. Google sees these keywords, goes, right, this is boss, this is all about this topic, I'll rank it really highly. So Panda was all brought in to say, right, we need to stop all this spammy stuff and really focus on high quality websites.
Thanks, Ash, that's spot on. Yeah, so Google started to get wiser, and it got harder and harder for search engine optimizers like myself and Rami to cheat the system, essentially. The Penguin update, that's also, just to point out, they're called very strange things, and I'm not sure why, but the Penguin update, that was to rule out all the spammy backlinks as well. There's been some really recent updates that we're going to talk a little bit about later, but if I draw your attention to the right-hand side of the slide, in February 2021, there was something called the Passage Indexing Algorithm Update rolled out in America, and this was for English-speaking sites. And this is really cool because it now means that not only does a web page get indexed next to a relevant keyword, but a specific part of a web page can be indexed against a keyword, and another part can be indexed against a different keyword. So it's quite important.
I mentioned this morning that we're quite geeks. Only geeks like us would find that really cool and interesting, but it is very important in terms of SEO and digital marketing.
Thanks, Ash. Yeah, that's true. We'll also talk about the Core Web Vitals update as well, which is currently pending. But all of this is Google trying to serve up a better user experience. And one of the really cool parts of the algorithm is rank brain. And you'll see that it happened in 2015. And this is so significant because it was actually the first time Google incorporated machine learning and artificial intelligence as one of the core components of its algorithm. So when it was deciding where your web page would rank in the organic search, it was now not just relying on statistical and static methods. There was artificial intelligence backing it, and there's constant circuits of data analysis, changes to how it's working, and then continued data collection, and it just advances and evolves Google search algorithm. A cool part of the machine learning for the search algorithm is something called natural language processing. It's abbreviated to NLP, but that just means the ability for a machine to comprehend the written word, which as humans, it doesn't seem like it would be that difficult, but computers work in binary. So for them to actually read a passage, pick out the keywords, but actually understand the context behind it and what it truly means is quite significant. So that's quite a key part of Google's algorithm. And it's helping Google essentially unlock all of the content across the whole of the internet and making it universally accessible to everybody. Rami's just going to talk about one of the natural language processing updates that happened in 2019.
So the BERT update in 2019 helped. It was one of these updates that helped with natural language processing and helped Google understand more about what the users wanted to find. As you can see in the examples on the slides, prior to this update, the search term, Google didn't really see the true intent of what that searcher is looking for. We look at that and we can see that it's a traveller from Brazil going to the US. And Google didn't understand that until the BERT update really cemented the intent behind the search, and it realised that Brazil to the US was the important bit, and now it serves a different result.
Thanks, Rami. So, based on Google's continued understanding of context behind a search query, how is that going to change the organic search landscape for us and for business owners? What does it mean in terms of marketing? So, we're very likely going to see a continued reduction in search engine results page click-through rate. So, I've got a little diagram just to help explain this. So, this is a search term of Instant Pot. Now, I didn't really know what this was, but it's a cooking appliance brand, and the search term is really vague, and Google can recognise that that search term is quite vague. So for Google to then show a really good result and create a really good user experience, it needs to kind of cover all bases, and that's what you see in the search results landscape. You can see there's shopping ads for people that want to buy the product. There's a knowledge panel if you want to learn about the brand, because the Instant Pot, you might just want to know more information about the manufacturer. And then in the organic section, there's people also ask box. And so in these accordions, there's questions that are related to Instant Pot and how to use it and things like that. So Google's covering all grounds, which is great for the user. But if you were somebody searching that, just wanting to know about the brand, your answer is right there on the search results page, and you no longer need to click. So the fundamental thing here is Google is actually reducing the number of people that are going to click through to actual web pages. And it makes search more competitive and a bit harder. And as search engine optimizers, we see a reduced return on investment. And it's very difficult because we also can't measure how many people read your panel and take in the brand name, because there's still added benefit for that, but we can't measure it anymore. So we'll get on to what you can do about that later on in the presentation.
Another big change that's coming in the future is the increased voice search. So you've probably got a HomePod or a Google Home, Amazon Echo at home, and you know that you can ask that device a question and it will return an answer. Google knows that more and more people are doing that, and it's trying to return the answer without sending search results to your phone or to a device that you can physically see and just tell you the answer.
Yeah, exactly. It's also, voice search is really crucial because it all comes back to the natural language processing. You don't get any more natural than a voice search. So Google really needs to start understanding the really long tail complex questions, and that's what Google's working on. And we can recognise that that's what Google's doing. And we can maybe place more emphasis on the longer tail, more natural queries when we're writing content. It doesn't necessarily need to just hit the short keywords now. We can think, okay, what's a really long tail query that's going to be really helpful? And we could write a blog, for example, about that. We're going to see a continued emphasis on mobile usability and overall page experience. So there's been updates in the past that have increased or have promoted websites that have a really good mobile use. And page experience is very much related to the Core Web Vitals update that we're going to see this summer in 2021. And these are all to do with actual physical experience. So when you load a page on your mobile, does it shift? You can all probably think of a time when you've clicked on a link and then you've gone to inquire or browse, and the whole layout's just shifted and you've clicked the wrong thing, and then you end up looking at something you never meant to look at, and it's really annoying, basically. So Google's cracking down on that, and it will continue to do so.
The other thing from that perspective as well, not just from an SEO standpoint, but I mentioned this morning how important your website is as a sales tool. So not only is it great for SEO, it'll help you organic ranking, but in terms of converting customers who come to your website, as I mentioned, I was trying to really place emphasis on the experience, nice smooth transaction process or inquiry process. Lizzie touched on a good point there. I think we've all had it before. When you've loaded a website, especially a few years ago, you've got to click something, accidentally Google AdSense is loaded up and you've ended up on looking at dresses with pockets rather than actually what you were trying to look at.
I think that'd suit you, Ash.
I mean, I don't like to brag, I quite like one. But it's really important. And then another thing that's on this list that's really important, again, I touched upon how important creative is going to be in terms of paid media in the future. But creative is going to be really important when it comes to the Google search landscape. So I'm currently involved with my Google rep at the moment from a PPC point of view of testing something called image extensions. So this is in a beta at the moment, but essentially when you see your organic listings, or paid ads in this case for now, we're going to be able to put images underneath the text in between different competitors. So we're able to visually show a user prior to ever clicking on a website what's in stock. Is it an e-commerce product? Let's say you're a hotel, for example. You can show off your rooms prior to anyone coming through. So from a paid perspective, that's great. We can ensure only quality traffic comes through. But the same will likely move over to organic, as that's what tends to happen. They tend to test it on paid and move it organically. And then you'll be able to show all these users, look how fantastic our website is, look how great our offering is. And what you'll see as a result, you'll see massively improved click-through rates of people going, that's fantastic, I want to go to that brand.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Something else that we'll see in the future is an increased importance on visual content. So Google's getting better at understanding the written word. It's also getting better at understanding what a video actually shows. So it's not going to rely so much on us putting in the information or the alternative text of a video and an image anymore. It's going to be able to watch it and actually decipher the relevancy itself. So video content might take centre stage in the search results landscape. But we also know that videos are great for user experience. So from 2 points of view there, videos are going to be something to think about using in the future. We're also going to see a brand-centric shift. So in my first point, I mentioned that the competition is getting more fierce in the organic arena. So by having a brand, you're not just going to look for the one-off conversion. Your aim is to interact with that customer, make them come back, and then you get the lifetime value of the user, and that's going to help you be sustainable moving forwards. And then finally, there's going to be an increased importance of helpful and informative content, and this underpins a lot of different things, such as the voice search, but people want to know more. People are asking why more and more every day. So having that long tail, really relevant, really quality and user-orientated content is going to set you apart. And so everything on this slide is user-centric. So if you're doing something on a website, if you think about what the user will benefit from and you do it, then you're going to be doing the right thing. So oh, my apologies. So this was another example of the search landscape getting more competitive. These are actually really cool. So featured snippets, they're getting used more and more. But when you ask a question, so if you use what, why, or a similar buzzword, then the featured snippet is going to appear. And this is where they've pulled like a passage. So this links in and ties nicely into the passage indexing update, but it pulls the answer right there and then. So you no longer click through. And it's fine for this example because it's Google, and Google's got you using their search engine, so they're happy with that. But if this was somebody looking for, what is the best floor tile for a kitchen, and you're an e-commerce website, and they just read an answer and that the information stage of their journey, then they're not going to click through, and you've potentially lost custom. So we're now going to look at, in a bit more detail, what we can do in search engine optimization to stay competitive in the future and the present. So Google is getting really clever at understanding context, and we can do the same. So if we're starting a campaign for a client, the first thing that we do is we look at what are people going to search to find us. And it can be quite difficult for us to even decipher between different keywords which one's going to be the best one. Some keywords can be really competitive just due to the amount that they get searched. But instead of going for the most competitive, what about going for the really relevant ones? So you then start to think about conversion rates and click-through rates of these keywords. And a way to kind of make your life easier is actually to use Google itself. So look at the search results landscape and see how Google's interpreted it, and use that to help you make your own informed decisions. So I've got an example here. So one of our clients is an investment casting company, and that's a metal forging process. And investment casting as a search term itself is actually, it's really broad, and because it's so broad, lots of people search it because there's a lot of different intents and meanings behind it. So 1,300 people search it per month in the UK, and of those people searching it, some people maybe want a service, but you just don't know, you can't tell by those words, and you can see that because that, based on what Google shows you, you can tell that you don't really know what people want. So you've got the videos, you've got people also ask boxes, so they're the accordions in the centre. You've got the knowledge panel on the right hand side about the investment casting process. And only 4 of the 10 first page organic listings are actually service related. So based on that, even though there's 1,300 people searching a month, not very many people are actually going to be looking for a service. So you're not necessarily, if you rank number 1 in organic, because you've already got the distractions of the rest of search, you're not going to get the true proportion of traffic that you deserve. Whereas if you look at this keyword, investment casting UK, you can see that Google has understood that having the location UK in there means that it's somebody looking for a place or a company that's located in the UK, and it's very much more service-led. And the search results landscape reflects that. You've got a find results on box, which includes directories. You've got the local maps listing with Google My Business Place panels in there. And 10 out of 10 of all of the organic listings were service-led, which is excellent. So you might be thinking, all right, well, in that case, you just go with that keyword. But that's a little bit of a trick question on my part. So you'd actually use both, because after we've implemented and optimized the website, we can see that, yes, there is a much lower click-through rate for investment casting, which is much broader. But on average, the value of those keywords is the same based on their ranked positions. And so it's important that we target both. And we're lucky in this case because investment casting and investment casting UK are similar terms, so that when you naturally write the content for that page, you're going to mention both. And as long as you have a heading that says like UK leading investment casting company, then you're going to target the UK side of it, but you're also going to target both. But it's not always that simple. Sometimes, because you have to optimize in the title tags and there's not that much space, you have to make a decision between which keyword you're going to prioritize. And it's understanding how Google's interpreting that result and what's your likelihood of success that will mean that you don't waste time.
I was going to say, I mentioned this morning about data as well. So data is key when it comes to paid media, but data is key for all digital marketing and for SEO in particular. The one thing, especially for sort of small to medium enterprises, the limiting factor often is time and resource. So when you're looking from a digital marketing strategy point of view, it's all about allocating resources in the most efficient way. So as you can see, we can take this data, and then if you add, as Lizzie mentioned, conversion rates on top of that, if you start to understand, okay, well, what are the keywords that are driving business? Because that's ultimately the aim of all marketing. We can then start to understand and tailor and adopt strategy around that.
Yeah, exactly. And also when you're budget limited, these kinds of this data will help you make the most intelligent decision based on your budget as well. So when we start an SEO campaign at SQ Digital, we do the keyword research like we've just described. But if you want to stay at the top of your game, you need to keep reviewing and continuously check that data and make sure it's still current, because even though we're mentioning and showing you all these search results pages, they can change in a day. So tomorrow, that search results landscape could change. You might have a Google My Business panel suddenly appears, and you'll see that your click-through rate drops. And then you might be chasing your tail trying to promote that keyword, when actually now it might be better to push another one. So I've got an example of this situation here. So on the left-hand side, we originally optimized our webpage for office plants for hire. So we have this national plant service company that do all sorts of different things, but one of their services is they hire out plants so that basically you don't have to look after them, which is brilliant and something that I need at home. But when we optimized the page, we went for office plants for hire at a search volume of 210, because at the time it was relevant and we didn't have the local listing, maps listing, which it now does. So with having the local maps listing, it tells us that for some reason Google now sees that keyword as more of someone looking for a local service. But what that's done is it's pushed our organic results down the page. And I couldn't actually fit it on, but you have to scroll quite a long way to now find the organic results. So our click-through rate dropped. But also key here is that Plantaria, they're not a local business, they are a national business. And so it's not benefiting them by having that local maps listing. So we reviewed it and we looked at our click data through Google Search Console, and we could see this other keyword that was doing really well despite ranking a lot lower in the organic results, and that was office plant hire. Our tools tell us that it's got about a similar search volume a month, and we had a look at it and we thought, well, it's a bit strange because there's a Google My Business panel there for a completely different company. So surely, if we promote this keyword in the title tag, we're not going to see a benefit because that's probably taken away a lot of the clicks. But we tried it because we could see that more people were clicking through that term. So we prioritized that in our title tag. And over the period of a week, we saw office plant hire as a keyword jump from 7 to 3. And we actually saw office plants for hire jump from 3 to 2. And we've got 50% more visitors just based on that one change.
Another thing you want to do to promote your visibility in search results is make sure that the user experience is exactly how it should be. You need to get people onto your site and there shouldn't be any stumbling blocks to stop people from converting. If a user gets onto your site and comes across a load of 404 broken pages, then that's bad user experience, but the Googlebot also picks that up and it won't help you in your search results either. You want to make your page as accessible as possible. Content on there, if there's a lot of it, you need to break it up with headers because nobody likes being faced with a wall of text. And you need to make sure it's loading fast. So Lizzie mentioned earlier the Core Web Vitals update that's coming soon from Google, and that's all about page experience. And if your page doesn't provide the right user experience, then you're going to start being penalised for it. One of the tools that we use to take a look at how users are navigating websites for our clients is Microsoft Clarity. It's free of charge. It's a code that you put onto your website and it starts recording how users view your site, what they click, how far they scroll down a page, things like that. Microsoft state that it doesn't affect load speed, but we're not sure that that's true, so we put it on for a short period of time to gather some data and then take it off to review the data. So the great thing about it is it records everything and you can just come back to it and look at all the data at a later point.
This is where we really geek out with stuff. So it's quantitative and qualitative. So not only will it give data based on things it calls rage clicks. So again, we've all had it when you go onto a website, why is this not working? And then you leave the website or you go back, for example. Alternatively, you go to a website and like Ray mentioned, there's 404 pages. So like I said this morning, that page used to exist and no longer does. So not only does that hurt user experience because it's annoying, it also, in terms of the spider that Lizzie mentioned, which is, if you will, a digital sat nav, it basically works its way through the website, understanding what goes where and what path it should follow. But more than anything, it's terrible for a user. So what we can do is it will return, as you can see on the screen, it will turn a heat map. So it will show where people's cursors go, what elements they click on a website, but it'll also visually record the screen. So you're actually able to play that data back and you can analyze any number of stumbling blocks. So for example, a user doesn't like where a button's placed. Sometimes you might put really important content over to the right-hand side of your page, depending on how your page is displayed. But most people, I found this out yesterday, most people read left to right, apart from Lizzie, who appears to read right to left, that we noticed yesterday. But because people do that, sometimes you don't think about it and you just go, well, this is how aesthetically I want my website to look. But actually, that's not how your users use the website. So it's all about using it to understand the consumer journey on the website and then make iterative changes based on that to improve that experience.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's not as obvious as you'd expect either. Recently, one example of using clarity that was really key was we found that there was loads of quick backs. So we looked at all the videos of the quick backs to work out if they had something in common. And we found that it was people actually submitting an inquiry form, and right before they clicked submit, they saw the T's and C's, and the T's and C's were hyperlinked. And so when they clicked that to just learn a little bit more about the terms and conditions, it didn't open in a new tab, and it opened on that page, and so they thought they'd lost all of the information that they'd submitted, and they were quickly clicking back. And it was just really bad for user experience, but this showed us that. And so it was such an easy fix just to make it open in a new window or a new tab. And then it's fine, but it's just finding things like that. This is an excellent software and it's free, so that's great. So this is a quote from Dr. Pete Mayers. So he's from Moz, which in the SEO world is like a really big SEO software company. It has lots of training modules and things. But I really like what he says. He says, to be really effective as SEOs, we still need to understand how this machine thinks, but we also need to be fully aware of its shortfalls as well, because Google's striving to understand queries as a human would understand it, but it's not there yet. And we know that because the search engine, ranking, it still relies heavily on title tags, having the keyword in the title tag. If Google's perfect, it wouldn't do that, and there probably wouldn't even be title tags anymore. Google would look at the page and write their own title tags for the user. But we're not there yet. Title tags are still really important, so make sure that you don't forget the basics. Put title tags, H1s, URLs, meta descriptions, all the metadata, get them on your web page for the right keywords. We still need to write alt tags. Google can't yet understand what an image actually has in the image. You have to tell it still. So put them in there for Google, but also put them in there for the user, because they're very important for visually impaired users of the website. We also still need to consider internal links, technical SEO, and schema. So I need to be careful of myself not to talk too much about these, because they could all warrant their own presentation, but internal links are really crucial for that search bot. You know, it helps it understand the site structure and the architecture of the website. And it assigns relevancy as it travels through that website, and it starts to think, oh, right, okay, that area is all about that, and that area is all about that. And then it can actually index the topical relevancy side of things too. Internal links are also great for the user. So I think, Ash, you mentioned an example earlier in your presentation, but he landed on a blog looking at hair straighteners, and he was trying to work out which one was the best one. But not only did that blog tell him which one might be the best or review them, there was links to the actual products. So they're internal links that are really beneficial to the user. Technical SEO, that's always going to be important. That's still user-friendly because it means you avoid things like 404 pages. And it's also great for the crawl bot who's trying to index your site, because they also hit dead ends if they hit a 404, and it can stop it crawling your site fully, and then certain pages just get missed off the index and then they don't appear in search, and the business owner misses out. And then finally, schema.org. So Schema is a collaborative markup language that was initially created through Google, Yandex, Yahoo, Microsoft, all working together to come up with a way that they could all understand specific parts of a web page. So a schema code you can put in, and you take out the ambiguity. Google can directly know exactly what that element is on your web page. So if you've got a product and a price, you can say, this is the price, this is the price, and Google can be like, okay, that's the price. And it'll even go as far as showing that in the search results page. And certain things like that are called rich snippets, and they can be really good for click-through rate and actually getting a competitive edge in the search engine results pages as well. So content is key. I think I've mentioned content quite a few times, and that's because when it comes to understanding websites and web pages, as I've already said lots of times, Google is getting so good at it that eventually all it's going to rely on is the content and how good it is. Is it user-centric? Is it high quality? So in the future, and at present, you definitely need high quality content. One way to think about content on a website is to think of the traditional shop. So without content, the person comes in the shop, goes to a rack of clothes, has a bit of a look, maybe buys it, maybe doesn't and leaves. The content can welcome them at the door. It can lead them to the clothes, tell them about the different ones, suggest some alternative clothes, like, oh, maybe you'd like them actually based on what you've said to me, and then help them to the till, and then offer, what's it called, make them come back. Incentives, that's the word. Yeah, so that's what content can do. It's very powerful. One of the other things that you can do, which is a bit more of a strategic angle to content, is you can do topic clustering. So you can find a pillar piece of content, so something like everything you need to know about IR35, which is an accounting term. So if you want to know more about that, you can speak to ICS. But basically, you could write a blog about IR35, and there's so much going on with that you couldn't really cover everything in one really long blog. So what you can do is then have these satellite blogs that answer different aspects about what IR35 is, how you can stay outside of IR35. And it's really good for the user because no matter what type of IR35 query they want, they can follow links between all these pages and they'll find absolutely everything out. But Google sees that in the links and the relevancy, and it associates the topical relevancy. And each page within that cluster will help each other page rank, and it can be a really powerful way to move to the top of the search results pages. And finally, with Google's increased ability to understand videos, use videos. Maybe don't write a really long blog, go out there with a camera and actually answer the question visually, because that is the future.
I mean, yeah, it's inherently people like me who are the problem for this. We're lazy. The younger generation, two of us, sorry, the younger generation, we are lazy. You've got lots of content, but let's be honest, who wants to read a massive blog of content when I could go to YouTube and find a review for this product or service? Having this video content and great creative in the website just helps it. It's easy to digest information for the lazy people.
That's very true. I'm one of them too, Ash.
One of the other good things you can do is build your brand. So Lizzie mentioned that a website should act like a shop does, and you should welcome your customers and guide them through every step. It doesn't just end when they make that purchase. If you carry on that and you build a name for your brand for supporting your customer, then that can do you well in search results as well. So the schema that Lizzie mentioned allows you to add reviews to Google's search results, and the more good reviews you've got, then the better chance it is that somebody finds your site and comes and visits it. The site I get my dresses from, for example, they have an absolutely brilliant brand that they are constantly telling people like you love our dresses, and that's a really important thing for a user to see.
Yeah, I think they've got a new dress coming out and you're already keen. So it's all
12 o'clock on Friday, I will be there.
Exactly. So that just shows you the power of a brand, because Rami is giving them the lifetime value of a customer, just not just the one-off transaction. And that's what's going to make you a sustainable business in online organic search. And so our last point is to work smart. Ash has mentioned that data and data analysis is really important, and that's just true. It's so true. So when you're optimizing a website, you need to cover all bases. So the algorithm is so complex that we don't know now what single thing is going to promote the rankings. So we have to do everything. We have to eliminate the limiting factor, and we have to do everything, but the trick is not to do everything all at once, which can be quite hard to resist doing, but you need to just calm it down and do it one by one, because if you make a change, or let's say you make 10 changes and it actually has a negative impact, you're going to have to reverse all of those 10 changes and then start again anyway, because you don't know which one went wrong. So if you make a change, it has a positive impact, that's great. You make another change, you know what worked and what didn't work. So that's the way you need to move forwards. And the last point is be patient. So search engine optimization is a long game. Google changes, it can change daily, weekly, monthly. Sometimes we go into work and a keyword's, one of our web pages is sat in a certain position, and by the afternoon it's changed. It honestly changes so much. So you just have to be patient and persistent to see those improvements. but it can be a really powerful marketing channel. So SQ Digital, we use these tools to help us with our data analysis. It helps us dive down and work out what's working, what's not working. And you may have seen these before, you may not. If you'd like to know more about them, then please feel free to ask the questions in one of the rooms afterwards. But one of the ones I do want to point out is Big ML. So that stands for Big Machine Learning. And that's a free software where we can actually kind of use what Google's doing. So they're using machine learning to improve their processes, and so can we. We can take keywords from an existing website and we can train a model to cluster the keywords, and it can make our keyword research and optimization, so keyword research and like the strategy of placing those keywords on the pages much quicker and slicker, and it helps us automate our internal processes. So to summarize, Google is getting cleverer at understanding the intent of the query. As a result of that, search is getting more competitive as Google serves up a better user experience through the search results pages based on the intent. To ensure our visibility in the increasingly competitive landscape, we need to optimize for the user in absolutely everything that we do. Good quality content is essential because as Google gets smarter, it will rely less on the signals we give it through title tags, and the thing that will be left after and will always be there is the high quality content. Be a brand. Don't just try and get the one-off product purchase or transaction. Work with them. Leave all the things there to help them come back to you. And then finally, the Core Web Vitals update, it was supposed to go live in May, but Google themselves pushed it back to June at the moment. It might get pushed back further, but it's definitely scheduled to roll out in summer 2021. So if you have a website and the page experience isn't great, then this is something that you can do right now to see the benefits in a few months' time. Thank you very much for listening.